He got kind of fired up talking about it.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I guess generic. How did day one go? What'd you see out there today that you liked?
Yeah, I really liked the tempo. I liked the way we communicated. I thought it was a really good day one. I think we came out after summer, and we started a heck of a lot farther ahead than we left when we were in spring. So that was better than anything we did in the spring.
Wow.
Yeah.
When we had you late in spring, I think you said that you felt really good about 17, maybe 18 guys in the two deep.
Yeah.
Is it too early to say? Is that number changed, or what did you see from today that might impact it?
No, I mean, I think the amount of guys maybe in that hunt to try to find out who that two deep is, I think there's probably 24, 25 guys we're looking at probably going to get a chance to get in there. No, it's too early for that. We'll go to the fall camp and put the pads on, make things get real, and see how they perform.
Some guys were dinged up in spring. Phoenix Jackson, Braden Lee come to mind.
Yep.
And then you added some guys, too. Anybody you like that you guys added, including those two, that would have a chance to make two deep?
Those two definitely will. I think those two, it's going to be, going through the fall camp so we can see where they're at. They're both in situations where they're fighting for they're going to have to fight for that position, which is good. You usually want somebody to get it because they stepped up and took the job, not because of default, because somebody, making mistakes. So I think both those guys will be in a situation to help us. It's good to get them back out there and practicing.
Feel pretty good about the situation with the defensive line. I mean, you guys added a lot of guys from the portal, and then also recently added Antonio Sandal-Bascom.
Yeah, I feel good about it. I think right now, we're probably saying there's probably of the three interior guys. You're saying there's probably 5 we feel real comfortable with, but there's probably a 6th, 7th, and 8th guy. There's probably 3 guys fighting for a job to see who's going to be the other, getting the 2 spot. We like that to get that number. If we can have 7, be good. If we went in there in the season saying we had 7 guys we trusted, felt comfortable that there wasn't a drop off in play and how they're performing. But some of that still is going to go through fall camp, and we're going to see. We're very young up front. One thing we're young. I mean, I don't know how the exact numbers, but I think there's like 7 of them are either freshmen or redshirt sophomores. So those guys are going to hopefully take a huge stride in fall camp. And, looking for the guys who are going to step up and be the leaders up there. Kind of by default right now. Yeah, you say Hunter Osborne's been one. He's been really consistent. There's guys out there that we're just expecting to come on. We want to see more guys step up and take the lead in that role. There's freshmen, young guys that are going to come in. Obviously, Danny Bill's a young guy, a local kid that he's going to have his opportunity to get in the 2 deep. And he's going to have a good fall camp.
I'm wondering about safety also. I mean, we know about Christian Harrison. He's played a lot of ball. But it seems like there's quite a bit of competition there. And I was wondering also, like Carter Stoutmeyer, we've seen him at the Star. Is he a possibility to work at safety some?
What are you talking about, 2I? We play with 3 safeties. So it's really right now it would be Kamari House. If we were to play today, it would be Kamari, Christian, and Miguel Mitchell. But there's a push there on we got the same thing. There's probably about 5 other guys that are in the hunt. Say who's going to be that 2 role. And really, we want to get it to where it's guys that we can play multiple guys in the game, multiple guys in position. Just what the SEC's like, and you're going to get banged up, and guys are going to drop. It's going to be tough to finish. It's going to be tough to finish the season with the 3 starting guys you got. So you want to make sure you're getting guys ready throughout the season. Make sure for their opportunity comes, they're ready to go. So there's plenty of guys in that role. Again, fighting for those jobs. We say Stoutmeyer, Key McGlure, John House didn't go through spring either. He's in that role, experienced guy. Tay and Tyler Scott. Those guys kind of come off my head right now, but there's a couple of guys that could get themselves in the fight.
When we get to watch the defense work, like at least today, 11 against Air, it's Quincy's one of the edge guys, and then with the second team unit, it's Xadavian, Day, Caleb Bell, 2 guys that have such different frames than Quincy and skill sets. I mean, does the defense change maybe when it's Quincy on the field at that spot compared to the other 2 guys, or do you want it to be as
No, I mean, it's kind of what we're looking for. I think Quincy brings a little extra that probably doesn't fit the typical mold. We're looking for more a guy that field side end to be a physical, strong side end. He just happens to be an athletic field side, strong side end. So it does open some doors up. It does create some mismatch advantage with him out there. And those other guys can do the same thing. I think Caleb he's been impressive, had a great summer, plays with a tremendous motor. And Day, again, he's been really good against the run game in the spring. Like to see him obviously step up in the pass game and be more effective in the pass rush and things like that. But there's some depth for us to work with.
Is there any motivation to maybe give Quincy a shot at the jack as well, just as maybe more of a pass rushing guy?
He drops too much, so
gotcha.
I don't think I'm not going to be considered too smart if I drop in Quincy bunch.
Okay. What about you mentioned Danny Beal and you briefly said Tay's name? The two freshmen there that have a chance to crack the 2 deep. How have they maybe improved since we last saw them in the spring? What have they done this summer?
I think their mental part and the understanding of what we're doing has drastically grown. Then the reality is you got to get on the field and you got to prove it. Is what it is. So they're both put themselves in a position right now to go fight for a job, and now they got to go fight for it.
I wanted to ask you about a few linebackers, specifically Bradley Shaw and Wyatt Simmons. They've been here for a little bit. Kind of just what are the biggest strides have you seen them take from spring to right now?
Biggest thing, you start with Shaw, is that, it just really, like his thing is about consistency, and he just does a great job. He's really coachable. He's very intelligent. So he allows us to do a lot of things, also putting checks on him and things that he can do to get us in the right call and get us, get us into a little better situation. Wyatt's probably his biggest strength, his ability to run, and that doesn't have as much game experience as obviously Shaw does. But again, same thing. He's going to be in that mix. There's probably 6 linebackers we think are going to be fighting out. I mean, it's Shaw and Quay. Those 2 guys are the guy. Then there's 4 guys fighting out for the next. Who's going to take the next snaps? And then
getting to coach a guy like Quincy after the season that he had last year, he's a place of familiarity for some people who are here for the first season. But what's it been like getting to coach him and kind of have him as a reliable anchor for this defense?
Well, he's got a lot of ability. I think the biggest thing him to enjoy is that obviously he's got a great skill set. Those guys are fun to coach, but I've really seen him grow a lot, and I think he's really I think he's untapped. I think it's untapped. I think I think he's just tipping the iceberg of what he's capable of doing. And we're going to need him to take a bigger role of being a dominant football player on Saturdays.
These practices without full pads, just what do you need to see during them whenever you aren't fully dressed out yet?
Yeah, big thing is we can get through a lot of communication, alignment, assignment, responsibility, all that stuff. You got to be careful of that though, because there's the guys that can do all that stuff, and then when the lights come on and the pads start clicking, they can't make the play. Or the situation can get too big for them. So you got to be honest with yourself. Like sometimes judging these things and no pads is like, it's really, But we can get a lot of communication done, all that stuff done, and then when you get to truly evaluate them is when the pads come on. Can they finish the job?
Just kind of getting at your unit's identity. Just what do you want opposing offenses to say after playing Arkansas?
That was tough as hell. I want it to be hard for people to find a way to get a first down. Hopefully they're going to say that we're very fundamentally sound, and we play extremely hard.
This is a really compact camp before school starts in terms of 9 practices and then that scrimmage. Does that add to the sense of urgency? What can you guys get done before school starts?
Yeah, we can get a lot done. It won't be done when school starts because we'll still be 2 weeks away from games. So we'll still be growing. We still got to get after each other. We still got to get better. We got to push the envelope, and it's going to be the same thing as we go through the season. And we got to get better. And we hit game 4, then we're in game 1, and hopefully we're better in game 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. We're going down that stretch. Again, we kind of set them up for that. Know it's going to be a short camp. That we pushed them pretty hard this summer, where they're at. I think it showed today. A lot of things that we did out there, just probably the elimination of a lot of mental mistakes, errors, things like that, got cut down. I think our guys did a great job. I've been extremely impressed with our players of how intelligent and how hard they've worked. And it's been impressive. One of the better groups I've been around in 35 years.
I want to ask you about the jack spot as well. Got some guys who've played there, and some veteran guys. What do you think about the depth at that position?
Yeah, again, there may be 5 guys that can play that job. We're gonna have to go through fall camp and get it weeded down. I think that, the top 3 right now are probably the ones leading the pack, and whether it be Souls, Collins, and Jamonte Waller. But I'm not saying that Donnie's not in that fight. And then we just had a new guy, Brian Austin, that he just got here in the summertime, but he's shown flashes. I'm excited to see what he does when the pads come on.
Quavian, how does a guy like that kind of fall through the cracks? Was he a late bloomer? I mean, we see the work ethic. I think he started every day in the spring for you guys.
Yep.
Like, how does a guy like that get missed?
I don't know. Obviously, one thing about recruiting, it's not a science. It's really not. Guys miss all the time. That's why you got D3 guys going to NFL. You got D2 guys going to NFL. And, one thing about the portal thing is it's harder for guys to fall through the cracks because they don't get recruited coming out of high school and they go, step on a field and everybody's going to pick them up now, D2, FCS, or D3. Now they're not staying there for 4 years anymore. But he's a pleasure to be around. He's a pleasure to coach. I'm glad he's here.
I mean, you guys, did you have a connection to him, or did you see something on film? Like, he obviously jumped out.
Saw his film. We were looking for an athletic kid that, that was athletic enough to play in the SEC, move around. Didn't know he was going to have all the intangibles he had. Kind of got an idea through recruiting, but it's transport is so fast to process. You don't know what you know what I mean? You really don't. You're shooting dice. We knew the skill set and athletic ability we were looking for. Yep, and he answered all those questions, and then he put on top of it that he's an intelligent kid, extremely hard worker, high character kid, and those that just puts icing on top of the cake.
How have you evolved just in the last few years with your defensive philosophy? I think we've talked about just like teams kind of getting to more power and stuff where you develop that defense to stop a lot of zone and stuff, flush stuff outside. How have things changed for you?
I think schematically probably a lot of things have changed. I think a lot of I want to go back to the concepts and the things you believe in don't. But how you're going to get there has changed. Obviously, just the way the game is evolved, especially probably more so in the last I'm gonna say 20 to 15 years. It's really with the RPO development and all those things, I think that kind of changed the game quite a bit.
Hunter Osborne was a guy when I think we talked in the spring. You all your coaching staff raved about the leadership that he showed in the winter. How did maybe that show up spring practice, summer practices? Just Osborne as maybe a leader for the defense, one of the older guys.
Yeah, he's been around. He's played a lot of football. Same thing. Like most of the guys we recruited in the portal, we were looking for guys that had a skill set. It was always great, but we were looking for guys that loved football. We're looking for guys that had that were smart enough, that could have a higher learning capacity, football IQ. So we hunted those guys, especially on defense. That was the thing. I was hunting some guys that obviously that if it gets rocky, they're going to fight through it, and they ain't going to run and tuck their tail, and they ain't going. You know what I mean? We got a challenge ahead of us. It's not going to be all roses every time. We know that. But if you're going to get there, you're going to have to fight it. And when the obstacles come and adversity hits, you got to strike. You got to button it up and go back to work. And I think we did a great job of identifying those type of kids. And Hunter's the epitome of that.
I know the spring game was a long time ago, but we didn't get to talk to you. And Steven Souls had a couple sacks, a lot of quarterback pressures that game. I mean, you feel like that was maybe a confidence booster for him? What have you seen since the spring game, and just how much did you enjoy seeing that type of performance from Souls? Yeah,
he's extremely talented. At the end of the year, I kind of just told Steven, I said, if you just want to put the best version of yourself out there, it's good enough to be special.
You said this is one of the better groups you've had in the last 35 years. Just what makes you say that? Was there something that you saw in particular, and when did you kind of realize that this one was actually
just
pretty special?
Guys coming in on a daily basis, meeting extra, wanting to get better, wanting to improve, asking good questions, the intention, just probably the most so than anything is the extra time they put into things, and I stressed them pretty good this summer, mentally. I just told them I don't want to go into this thing. We're not going into year one, so we've got to get some kinks ironed out now. And so we threw a bunch at them, tried to stress them mentally as much as we could this summer. I thought they did a really good job with it.
You overlapped with Caleb Wooden at Auburn 1 year, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and he's one of those guys from the 22 class.
Yeah.
What do you know about Caleb? And
Yeah, I don't, it's not as cut and dry on those rules and all that stuff because he went to camp and all this other stuff. So really, that Coach Silverfield kind of worked through all you got to jump through some hoops and all this stuff. It's not just simple. Oh, they're here we go.
Right.
I'm letting him work through that stuff.
But what you recall of him from I guess it was 3 years ago though.
Mm-hmm. He was young back then. I think he was a redshirt freshman when I had him. Yeah. So a good kid. He played a lot of football. I know he started here and those things. Again, I haven't talked to him in football in a couple of years, so I don't know where he's at or where he's been, and those type of things. So I'm gonna let Coach sort of jump through all the hoops, and if we can get him, then we'll be excited and join him into the family and help us make a run.
Arkansas's defense was one of the worst last season in the conference and last in a lot of statistical categories. So how do you kind of embrace the challenge of turning this defense around from where it was last year to getting it on what your standards are?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's what I say is this: it don't matter what, good or bad. If I would have came in and you said, hey, they were fourth in the country in rushing and seventh in scoring, you'd say, what do we got to do? Well, whatever happens, we got to do is we got to focus on us right now and how good can we get and what can we control. And we control how well we practice, we control how hard we work, and we can control, our alignment, our assignment, our responsibility, and do those things. So whatever it is, we got to get to work. You can't rest on the good stuff. I've been there too, and you can't say, "Oh, this is where we're at. We got to break them." That was last year. I don't care. And the chances are we're going to line up. There's going to be probably 10 of 11 new starters on that field. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty excited about it. I'm going to go through fall camp with these guys and see how good we can be. That's the first thing we got to do. We're just going to go out there and set a bar, how good we can be, and then week 2 we're going to try to set that bar a little higher and go reach that.
Coach, appreciate you.
Okay, thank you. All right, appreciate you guys.
Yep.
CJ Brown and Hunter Osborne next.